All right, hello and welcome. Chris Tonis here, CEO of Preeminent Recruitment, and I am so excited to be here today delivering this training for you. We're going to cover how to build a resume that actually succeeds at getting you more interviews and job offers. Now, before we dive in today, I want you to become a clean slate. If you're not going to be open-minded to the concepts we're going to discuss today, then watching this video isn't going to do you any benefit. I'm going to share with you everything I have learned through helping thousands and thousands of people find their ideal job. And I need you to just take in what I share and understand that this is new information. It's information that might seem contrary to what you've been told in the past, and that is what we want it to be. You see, most information circling out there on the internet when it comes to job searches and resumes comes from people that don't know what they're talking about, unfortunately. It doesn't come from people that have spent their life in talent acquisition, speaking to hiring managers day in and day out. It doesn't come from people who work with individuals like yourself and ask them, what do they really need? What do they want? And what are they struggling with? And that is what we've built this training off of. And so you're going to get a lot out of it, but only if you're willing to be open-minded and take in what we share with you. So on the heels of that, I think it's very important to share with you a bit about who I am. So my name is Chris Tonis. I am the founder and CEO of Preeminent Recruitment, as well as the Job Search Academy. I run and manage an international talent acquisition firm. Right now, we help over 100 companies across 15 different industries. So that means everything I'm going to share with you is going to be hyper relevant regardless of what companies you're interested in and where you work and what industries you're in or what level. We consult with companies as well on hiring, recruitment, and retention best practices, as well as allow them to give us their recruitment processes to outsource. In addition to doing this, I'm an advisor for a top 60 Business Insider software as a service company, and we're doing some amazing things there, and I'm helping them build out their talent operations as well as their sales team. And more relevant to you, I run this business that you're seeing today, which is our Job Search Academy. And over the last 7 years, I have been blessed, beyond blessed, to help over 1,000 people find their ideal or quote unquote dream job, as well as reviewed over 30,000 resumes for individuals and companies alike. And I've helped over 2,000 people directly prepare for interviews. This has been my life work. I have spent 20,000 hours of my life collecting the data, the information, the knowledge. I have given the sweat equity, the blood, sweat, and tears so that you don't have to. Everything I share with you next is a simplified version of the culmination of everything I just shared with you. It comes from the hundreds of hiring managers I speak to on a daily basis. It comes from the 100 of HR managers that I speak to on a daily basis. It comes from interviewing and hiring people for companies directly. It also comes from my personal experience working one-on-one with people just like yourself. So I want to start this training with some key statistics. You're going to find some stats here in front of you that may or may not be surprising. For example, less than 8% of applications yield job offers. And actually, that should say less than 8% of applications yield an interview or the potential of a job offer. Can you believe that? You apply to 100 jobs on average if you go on a major career site, and you can expect for only 8% of those applications to get you an interview and lead to a serious interview process. Okay? Now, the average application or resume is viewed for less than 13 seconds before a decision is made. Now, these are going to be incredibly key statistics that we're going to break down one by one, and we're going to talk about how to overcome all of these issues because they are challenges, struggles, issues, whatever you want to call them, these are the things that are standing in your way. Over 70% of employers think that people lie on their resume. This was a huge, huge topic of debate on LinkedIn recently, and it's a matter of fact. It's a problem that we have to overcome. 84% of resumes lack essential data or statistics. This is a functional problem that we're going to cover soon. And 75% of companies surveyed use some sort of resume screening tools, which are just computer programs or algorithms that are scanning your resume, looking for certain keywords to see if you're qualified or not in a very basic manner. We're going to talk about that in a minute, how there's a long way to come on that, but it's still affecting you majorly. So what do these statistics mean for you? And before we dive into answering that specific question and answering the first thing that we have to address, let's talk a bit about what's going on in the world. So we saw an interesting thing happening in the human resources world, in your world if you're looking for a job, where about early 2020, we saw the job markets be reshaped completely. We saw jobs get eliminated. We saw people getting furloughed. We saw a massive decline, sharp decline in the economy and the labor market. But then all of a sudden, with all of the money printing and all of the factors that were at play and companies expanding again, we saw those job numbers explode in a good way. And so now we're being told that there's an incredible amount of opportunity out there, but that doesn't mean that it's equally spread out throughout the entire country. It also doesn't mean that it's equally spread out by industry. And so if you're watching this, my assumption is you are about to enter into a job search in a competitive market and you're looking for some advice on how to stand out. You might also be trying to get a job that you're not fully qualified for because now's the time to do that. Or for some reason, you're struggling to get interviews and job offers, right? And all of those factors are at play right now. And we're seeing it more than we might have ever seen it before. It's almost like this silent problem, because all we keep hearing about is these job reports and how incredible it is out there. Some people with very specific skill sets are switching jobs every 6 months because they're getting offers that are $10,000 to $20,000 more than they were making previously. It is driving you insane. It's driving me insane. But I just want you to realize that just because that's somebody else's experience, it doesn't mean it's yours. And it's such an important place to start with any training that talks about resume or job search is what's going on around you needs to be silenced because you do live in a bubble. And you need to understand the dynamics of things because you need to understand that there's opportunity for you to get to that next level right now and get jobs that might have been out of your reach just recently. But it doesn't do you any good to stress yourself out with these types of things. So I want you to really just live in a bubble and focus on what we're talking about here today. Because if you can just take the small steps that we're going to cover right now, you're going to see massive results as long as you do the work. All right. So first off, why is it that so few resumes are selected? Why is it that for certain positions, only 8% of applications get through into a serious interview? And the answer is your resume, more often than not. The other problem that you're going to run into too, which also comes back to your resume, is the average job listing. Right now, this isn't my statistic. This is an aggregate of all the major career sites. See between 100 to 200 applications per job. 100 to 200 applications per job. And I can tell you from having these listings up on my own and helping these companies, many of these applications are not qualified. But it doesn't mean your resume doesn't get saturated and pushed to the bottom or lost in the fray because of it. So yes, the problem is your resume, but there's other factors at play. So we have to build a resume that's easy to read, that will stand out, and we're going to get to my key points here in a minute, and at the same time sells you as an incredibly viable option for every job. Now, I do want to cover a couple of my key principles and takeaways. First of all, every resume should be clean, concise, and easy to read. Clean, concise, and easy to read. And we're going to show you how to do that in the next module. The other principle that I want to share with you is that every single time you apply for a job, your resume should be tailored for that job. You should use the job description of the position you're applying for to restructure your resume. Now, I'm not saying you lie on your resume. You can't change job titles. You can't change where you worked, but you can tailor your resume to speak more of that language. So, for example, if you're a sales manager, sales director watching this video, just as an example, and you are interested in getting into marketing or customer experience, let's talk about customer experience. So you want to become a customer experience manager. Well, you're being told right now or overlooked because your resume says sales director and all the bullet points follow suit. But your resume could say sales director, but then all of the bullet points are directed towards how you helped their customer experience department grow or be established, and you can make things pop and stand out with bolding and underlining. That is what is absolutely essential to do if you want to get noticed for jobs in an industry that you might not necessarily be 100% aligned for. And you could do this for any industry with any experience if you're trying to transition right now, is speak to the job you're applying for, even if you're going for a job that you're not qualified for. For example, you're applying for a director position and you're presently a manager. Well, just tailor your resume to talk about your day-to-day responsibilities. Talk about how you're responsible for hiring, for firing, for building out the budget, for how many employees. If you're at a large company and you don't have these types of data points in there, then of course you're not going to get picked for the director interview, right? So we have to be specific, but we're going to get to all this. So that leads me to another point here. How do we get past this 13-second review period, right? We now have an understanding of why people are being overlooked. It's crazy out there right now, and the resumes are failing to pop and be easy to read. But how do we overcome this 13-second review? Well, it's simple. You try this structure and format. It's very, very clean and concise. This is where most people run into problems, is they don't have a resume that's easy to read. So right below, you'll find the typical outlook that we like to see because it's easy to skim through. You have the dates to the left. You could have them to the right. It does not matter. And you have the company you worked for in all caps, and then the position you held in bold and not in caps. So both of them independently stand out. Now, below this, you would have a list of bullet points, and there'd be nothing interesting about that. It would just be 5 to 10, maybe 15 bullet points, depending on how much experience you have. And those bullet points, we're going to cover the content in, but those are, like I said, not bolded, not underlined, not formatted in any way, shape, or form, unless they have certain points that you want to stand out. Like your second bullet point might be, in the example we gave previously, built the customer experience team up to 10 members and directly managed it. Even though you were the sales director, you'd want to bold and underline that. So how do we overcome the lie biases? Remember when we said that most employers think that you lie on your resume? Well, that's where the content comes into play. So we talked a little bit about that structure, how you have it easy to skim read. You have your name at the top. You have your contact information below your name. You could put an objective there. I don't fully believe in an objective. You could lead with your education. If your education is a strong suit, so if you have a bachelor's or master's and that's what the job calls for, lead with your education. Then you have experience below that, listed exactly in the format that we just showed you on the previous module. Now we need to talk about this proper content and what should those bullet points look like. So now you got the name at the top with your contact information. You, in your instance, let's say you're a master's prepared individual who's applying for a job that requires a master's. So you have education. And below the education, you have the where you got it, what your degree was, and what was the date. And then you have experience, and you have the company name in all caps, and you have the job title in bold. And then below that, you have 10, maybe 15, maybe 5 if you don't have that much to write about, bullets about your experience. And you must have data, data, in more statistics. So your first bullet point should be some stats on the company you work for. How big are they? How many employees do they have? What's their annual revenue? This is important because some companies will only interview people that worked for companies of similar size. This is a real factor at play, and we're going to get to how they do the screening for that. So make sure you have that information. Second, you better have some stats about how you made the company money, how you saved the company money, how many projects you ran for the company, how many patients you saw at the company if you're in healthcare, some statistics around what your job entailed and how it affected the company. After you have that, then you should have some data and stats around your greatest accomplishment. You made $10 million in 6 months for the company. It was a record at the time. You, as a healthcare provider, on one crazy day saw 22 patients and responsible for having 21 safe births. Whatever it is, you have some really impressive stat there that shows off your skills. After you have those bullet points on stats, I would throw in some soft skills. One of the facts I didn't share with you is 40% of employers view soft skills on the resume as important as the tangible skills that you would traditionally see in a job, like sales or marketing, right? So soft skills are just as important, like your leadership style or character traits that you developed on the job and how to manage people, whatever soft skills that you want to put there. It's important to put them there to make you, you. Now, once you have that, I would throw in a couple more data points if you could, some more stats about day to day. But where it gets really important again is to add some day-to-day specifics. This is how we're going to overcome the lies, is our data points are specific. They're not rounded. So if a company has 398 employees, you don't say they had about 400 employees, you say they had 398 employees. With your day-to-day specifics, you don't say you read 300 resumes a day. You say you read 297 resumes a day, screening them for 12 different companies across 7 states. That's how a resume should read. It should be very specific, so specific that it'd be impossible to lie on. And it's also impressive because I bet you're doing some impressive work day to day, more than you even think. You'll realize it when you start writing your resume. It's actually a fun activity. After you do that, one little bonus that you could do is tell a story. Talk about your experience in story mode. Did you have an extraordinary thing happen on the job at a certain company? Did you go above and beyond somewhere? Put that bullet point at the bottom of each one of your jobs. Something that was extraordinary that you did to stand out. So I'm not going to dive incredibly deep on this because I don't think you need to fully understand it. But I had mentioned something about resume bots, and I understand this could be incredibly confusing for some of you. So what essentially a resume bot is you submit your application to a major career site. Let's call it Indeed because it's a very well-known one. Well, the company has the option when they post that job to have Indeed only send you resumes that meet certain criteria. And so the company sets some if-then statements. So if this person has 5 years of finance experience, then I am open to seeing the resume. If this person doesn't work at a company of less or more than 1,000 people, I don't want to see the resume. That's essentially what they're telling this robot, algorithm, AI, whatever you want to call it. It's not intuitive yet, but whatever you want to call it, that's what it's doing. And it's very simple right now. There aren't that many good algorithms yet, so don't worry about AI, machine learning, because we're not really talking about that just yet. And so you don't need to understand it, but what you do need to understand is that a resume without the proper stats and information is going to get screened by these bots because they're not intuitive yet. They can't read through the line. So you have to show them that you're qualified for the job in plain English so they understand, right? And I don't care if people out there tell you that this isn't real life, this isn't true, this isn't happening. It is. 75% of companies surveyed are using some sort of resume screener, and it's more than that. They're actively using one where they don't even realize that there's algorithms out there putting together their ideal hire. There's databases that show them only certain resumes based off of criteria. And so if yours is not optimized, then you will not be seen. It's incredibly important. And I can tell you, I have created a simple version of a resume bot on my own using Python. And that's a coding language. And what I found is most of the resumes that I put into it, I'd say as much as 80% fail to match the job that they intended to apply for. So you got to be very cautious with this. And the way you overcome that is you use very clean, concise, and specific language. And it comes back to when I was telling you, every application you submit should be directly in line with the job you're applying for. Your application and resume should be perfectly aligned for that. And you have to use statistics. You have to use keywords. You use keywords by talking about your day-to-day job. Do you see how this all comes together? Everything comes together. So the right structure makes your resume easy to read by humans and bots alike. Your resume being truthful by having enough data and content and day-to-day speak, talking about your day-to-day job, makes your resume compelling to a human, but also make sure that you have the relevant keywords talking about your day-to-day once more to make sure that you don't get screened out by the bots. So I'm sure you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. I talk a bit fast, so this could have been a 40-minute video if I talked any slower. And I totally get that, right? This is overwhelming stuff. But that's precisely why I wanted to make your life super, super easy. And the way we're going to do that is right below this video, you're going to find a link or a button. It's a button, actually. And all you need to do is click that button and you can get our resume template, which is simple plug and play. You can just write over what we have already there on the template. There's nothing crazy you need to do. All you have to do is fill out your name, your contact information, your job titles, your experience, your education. And then in addition to that, and it gets you started on what you need to write below it. Now, it's not a full template. You'll see when you get there, but it's everything you need to have the right structure and style of your resume. In addition to that, if that's not enough, we also created 2 videos. Video number 1 is going to show you how to walk through that and style and structure your resume, and you'll get a video of me doing exactly that, building it out and showing you how I built it out. It's an easy, infallible tutorial. And then in addition to that, there's another module that goes way deeper in resume content and data and training and shows you how I would do it myself. Now, you will find that by clicking the button below. And I look forward to seeing you there and take advantage of this. And I hope to hear from you soon. All right. Take care.